with a high-level defection from Donald Trump's administration over Iran. We're talking about a top counterterror official. The role huge, whether you know the name or not, Joe Kent, resigning because of the Iran war. And this is an anti-war kind of conscience resignation, saying I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran, noting it posed, quote, no imminent threat to our nation. It's clear we started the war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Kent, who is a MAGA diehard, but also isn't exactly known for all factual mastery, an election denier, among other things, puts this in a kind of conservative, even somewhat conspiratorial format, but to many on the right, that may resonate, saying Trump broke campaign promises. Until June of 25, he writes, kind of directly addressing the president, quote, you understood the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. Iran struck another tanker off the coast of the UAE. That is the 17th. Iran is strangling with a giant chokehold the Strait of Hormuz, cutting off about a fifth of the world's oil supply. Military experts say it's now the defining issue. They warn Trump will either have to find an off-ramp, something that we've been discussing since day one because there wasn't a clear goal, or if you actually wanted to stop the reality, as well as Trump would put it, the television images that you're seeing here around the Middle East and around the world, it might take ground troops. Here's Trump.
The Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm really not afraid of anything.
Note for journalists, if you ask Donald Trump a question and then say, are you afraid, he is going to say no. Meaning that while we're showing you the way he sounded regarding a boots on the ground question, that doesn't necessarily tell us what he's actually planning. Sometimes you have to watch what he does, not what he says. Israel says they killed 2 more top Iranian officials. U.S. intelligence believes Iran's regime, though, consolidating power despite withering airstrikes. Officials see a, quote, weakened but more hardline government in Tehran, the Post reports, backed by powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps security forces. There are other aspects to this, though, when you look at a fundamentally MAGA figure who was in a counterterrorist spot resigning and saying what a lot of other people on the right are saying, which is Donald Trump is breaking his vows. There's discord over the war in Iran. There is the problem of the reason or the rationale or the lack of threat posed by Iran. And then there is the sort of unusual world of MAGA. This comes up all the time if you look at who Donald Trump relies on and who are the sort of narrators of their movement. You end up looking at people who are, nicest way you could say it is violent thugs who hate America. The meanest way you could say it is convicted seditionists, one of the most serious crimes against the United States. And so in no way are we saying these are Iran experts, but they are part of Donald Trump's chosen team. Stuart Rhodes, the Oath Keepers founder, who was convicted and then pardoned. So boy, does he owe Donald Trump saying this.
I no longer call myself MAGA. I am an America-only patriot. I'm a Christian nationalist, an American Christian nationalist. And so I have to, open my eyes to the reality in front of my face. And it's caused a division inside of MAGA, and it's caused a division on the political right. But so be it. And so if I lose my pardon because of that, then so be it.
He's out. He can't lose the pardon, although many police might wish otherwise. Again, not an Iran expert, not an honest, law-abiding citizen, and yet someone who you would expect owes his liberty to Donald Trump, literally did crimes for Donald Trump, and now says he's out because of the No More Wars promise. Meanwhile, Americans squeezed by the economic consequences. Donald Trump ran on lowering prices. He had failed to do that before the start of this war. Now he's got gas prices going up, which everyone who works in this field says was a foreseeable consequence. That was known at the Pentagon, it was known at the Treasury, and it was known across Wall Street. So here's Trump's economic council director on that problem.
The fact is that the U.S. economy is fundamentally sound, and that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
I am joined by our experts, Molly Jong-Fast and Rev Sharpton. Rev, when you start losing your Jan 6 Oath Keepers politically, what does that tell you?
It tells me you're very weak. It tells me that you are probably risking a lot of Republican seats in the midterm, and you probably have had no real strategy in the first place. So you're just stumbling along, and because they're really not giving a rationale to their own crowd of what they're doing. Right. And I think by not having a rationale and having a real a blueprint, they're asking their own followers to make it up for them, and they're saying there's nothing to make up here. We drunk the Kool-Aid, and we're doing what you told us we were going to do America first, and we're not. It's also, I have to say, as a minister, strange to me a guy calls himself a Christian nationalist, but it's all right to kill over 120 kids in Iran, innocent kids. I don't think that's much Christianity being demonstrated there.
And Molly, I don't know if Stuart Rhodes is a literary type, if it's poetic license when he says you could take my pardon back. Right. But what he's signaling to his audience is, you're going to say I owe Trump, but this is how strongly I oppose what Trump's doing. Right. A year in, forever war is one of several broken vows.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember a lot of Trumpism 2.0 is fealty to Trump. So remember, he has that cabinet, that sort of rogues gallery of a cabinet, because they sign off on whatever he does. So the fact that you have someone from Trump world resigning is meaningful, because it's all about staying in line. And I think, look, there's a larger issue here, too, which is the anti-Israel stuff, which is causing a huge schism in MAGA. And you saw that with Megyn Kelly and InfoWars. And so there is a real disconnect. But this is the thing, Donald Trump has promised everything to everyone, and you can't both be a Christian nationalist and a Zionist.
Well, and Rev, I asked Ambassador Ross about this earlier. Concern about the Netanyahu government and its treatment of people and the Palestinian people is obviously valid, and this is a foreign policy issue. Tucker Carlson hosting the virulent anti-Semite Nick Fuentes, and all of these Israel dog whistles feel like foreign policy as a shell around anti-Semitism and hate. And you've clashed with some of these folks. You're familiar with the dog whistle. Sometimes they're not all that subtle. Right. How do you view that piece of this? Because Molly points out that, of course, it's valid to oppose this war or criticize the Israeli government's policies. But Nick Fuentes goes well beyond that, and Tucker Carlson's given him a platform and a home.
I think that they are not going after Netanyahu's policies. Right. They're going after Jews. I mean, let's face it. Yeah. They have, in many ways, personified evil as Jews in Israel or beyond. And they've been unapologetic about it. And I think that when you look at such blatant anti-Semitism and you do not see the president and anyone responding to it, it's very interesting that he's easy to call any of us radical or whatever. But he's not called these guys anti-Semites, yet he's supposed to be Israel's best friend.
And Trump met with Nick Fuentes. And yay, for a lot of people, it was hard to decide who was more controversial.
And that is my point. So my point is that the inconsistency in terms of how he measures is something we're used to. What I'm calling out is, why are the people that cheer him on when he calls somebody too radical or too woke or whatever, not saying, well, wait a minute, why are you dealing with known anti-Semites who have no problem being called that? Why aren't you attacking them? Yeah. What is the measure that you use?
I think that's fair. On a lighter note, how do we get lighter, Molly? We have Jon Stewart. So that's helpful. He makes the point, very straightforward, that it might be in the U.S. best interest to find an off-ramp, to not do this for 3 more weeks.
For sure.
But what if that makes Donald Trump feel that he's not tough? Take a look.
But not to worry. This sudden bottleneck of the world's oil supply, it's not a big deal. It's barely closed. The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping.
I know you may not want to sail the slowest moving vehicle on Earth, packed with the most flammable liquid on Earth, through the most active war zone on Earth. But on the other hand,
it's also costing more than $1 billion a day. So we have lives, we have American dollars, and we have American adventuring, which is what Donald Trump said he wasn't going to do.
Yeah.
And we still haven't gotten a reason for it, which I think is the most perplexing part of it, is they still haven't been able to cook up some kind of excuse for it.
I think that is when you look at, just look at the objective person looking at the news. We have not funded the government. We have TSA workers going into their second week not getting paid, but you're spending $1 billion a day in Iran for a war that you still have not defined to the American people. And you have not told us when it's over and why it's going on. And I've seen over 120 kids killed in a school, and it took you 3 days to say, yeah, we did it. 120 kids. I'm going back to that morality of it. And I think that when you put all that together, that's why even his own base is saying that I'm not with him.
And Rev, you know this man. I mean, you've tangled with this man for how long? 30 years?
40 years.
40 years. And he's always been certain things, but some parts of him seem to get worse. Lying about the war and hitting the school is worse than some other types of lies. I think people can understand. You got lives on the line.